it's Carl Brown from GuitarLessons365.com. Have another one from Trans-Siberian Orchestra today. We'll learn how to do Christmas Canon Rock. So this one's been requested quite a bit. I always get a lot of Trans-Siberian Orchestra around this time of year, so this is one of their bigger ones, rock-oriented ones. So we're going to take a look at the entire thing. I hope that you guys will enjoy it. Before I get into it, please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and ring that notification bell so you'll know when I release a new video. And please check out my Guitar Academy. Just really quick, you can just click the link in the description below. That link will give you a free 7-day trial to my academy, so you can check it out before you have to commit to anything. And my academy contains all my guitar courses, from a complete beginner course to more advanced courses in improvisation and ear training and theory and guitar tone, and lots of technique courses. So a lot of cool stuff there, so please go check it out. All right, so let's jump in this. I'm in standard tuning here, and I've arranged this beginning section that's on piano with some synth above it. So the synth line is the melody up top. So I've got that along with the piano, kind of arranged them both together. So you have that kind of full canon thing going. All right, so I'm hybrid picking this. So I'm just kind of picking the top note with my middle finger. You can middle or ring finger, whatever, I kind of switch it up. And then everything else you can just pick underneath it. All right, so let's look at this. We're going to play through this section twice before we bring the power chords in. So we're going to start here with this open A string. Now we're going to play this arpeggio instead of this, which we will later when we don't have to do that top note. But when we do have to do the top note, you kind of have to play it like that, because for most people this kind of thing not readily doable. So anyway, so we're here at the open A string and then the 9th fret on the high E. Then you play 7 on the D, 6 on the G, and 9 on the G. So that's the first chord. All right, then what we're going to do is we're going to take this down to the 7th fret on the high E string, and then have an E major arpeggio under it. So we're going to start this E major arpeggio with the low E open, along with that top note, obviously. And then we're going to play, let that E ring, we're going to play 7 on the A, 6 on the D, 4 on the G. So we have this. Now we're going to go to a bar, full bar at the 2nd fret off this F sharp minor. The note on top is going to be an A. So what we're going to do here is we're going to do the full bar, pick the 2nd fret there on the low E string with the 5th fret here on the high E. And then the notes in the middle, we're going to have this little F minor arpeggio, F sharp minor, sorry. So we have this 2nd fret there on the low E, and then pick the 4th fret on the D, and you already get the bar, 2nd fret on the G, and 2nd fret on the B, which you already got. So that's the first 3 chords. Now we get to a C sharp minor, which is more challenging to do. If you feel like doing it like that, that's fine. It just kind of cuts the root note off, which I don't really like the sound of doing that. So I played it with a kind of a big stretch here. Plus I did the next chords around it too to kind of make it similar. What you can do with stuff like this though is you don't have to have the whole shape in your hand to begin with. You'll see this in the upcoming chords too. What are the chords I've already played? I call it walking into chords. So we're just kind of you add the notes as they actually need to be played instead of having to grab the whole thing. It's the way that classical guitar players generally do a lot of their chord changes. So there's a lot of contrapuntal stuff usually going on with classical. You're arpeggiating a lot of the chord forms. So you don't need every single note at once. Unless you're strumming, obviously you need to grab the whole thing as like a grip. But if you're not, you can grab them as you need it, and it's going to make the chord changes a lot smoother, a lot easier to do. a lot less stressful. So anyway, we're going to start here with the C sharp minor. You're going to pick the G sharp on the high E string, the 4th fret, and then the C sharp here at the 4th fret on the A string. Now here, we don't have a lower bass string to hit, octave lower, and then doing the arpeggio an octave higher. So basically, I have to hit this bass note, then I have to hit it again to start the arpeggio. And that arpeggio is gonna, so the 4th fret on the A, 2nd on the D, 1st on the G. So we have this, then hit the note again. So it's a bit of a stretch. All right, now we go to a D major. So here we have a little bar there at the 2nd fret across at least the top 3 strings. And you're going to play the 5th fret there on the A string and that high E string, 2nd fret there. Then you're going to pick that 5th fret on the A again and then play 4th fret on the D and then 2nd fret on the G. Next chord is going to go to an A. So that's going to start with just the 5th fret on the low E and the 5th fret on the B. Pick those together, and then pick that 5th fret on the low E again, and then add the notes as you need. 4th fret on the D, 4th fret on the A, and the 2nd fret on the D. So it makes it a lot easier. And then we go back to that D major we just came from. And then just move that shape up 2 frets. And now we're going to have the melody note at the 4th fret on the high E and the low E string in there, so we have the octave lower that we can play now. And then 7th on the A, 6th on the D, 4th on the G. And then we start over. So we have this real slow. So it's a very popular chord progression and melody, very popular, like Pachelbel. So been around for hundreds of years. So we have that, and then we go to the band kicks in here with some distortion. Sounds like this. We just repeat that. All right, so what are those chords? So it's just a simple power chord version of that piano part we did earlier. So it's just an A power chord to an E to F sharp at the 2nd fret off the low E to a C sharp power chord, that's off the 4th fret of the A string. So we have A, then take it up to the 5th fret now for the D power chord. Back to the A. Back to the D. And then to an E power chord. The low E down here where we started. And then repeat. All right, and then we have this melody that comes in now. The melody plays a couple times, or just one time through, and then they add a harmony, some harmony lines underneath it that are kind of lower in the mix. But what I'm going to do is just kind of do the main harmony line, the one you hear coming in, and then it just kind of repeats the same thing twice. So that's what you're hearing most in the recording. You do hear those harmony lines come in there. but I'm not going to focus on, I mean, who has all that guitar players and buddies that's going to play all those parts? It's not going to happen, so I'm not going to waste my time on it. But we are going to do the main one, and that's the one you're going to want to play anyway. So it looks like this. Whatever, you can bend that last one. So that's going to start with this, it's a kind of a pre-bend at the 15th fret there on the B string. And release that bend. So we have this on the B string, and then play. Then it goes 14, 15, 17, a couple times. Do it. From there we have this. So that's going to be 14, 16, 18 on the D. Over to 14 on 16 on the G. And then a half step bend and release at the 14th fret on the B string. Toe. From there we have this. So that's just that 14, 16 on the G to 14 on the B a couple times. So, sorry, I might have thrown an extra note in this way. So yeah, when we get to that 14, 16 on the G to 14 on the B, just do that once. So we have this. Just like that, and then we have this. So that's 16, 17 on the A. So it's 16, 17 on the A, then 14, 16, 14 on the D. Over to 17 on the A, and back to that 14 on the D. Then go, that's 16, 17 on the A again, 14 on the D, and then to the 17 on the A. So we have this. It's just around a few notes. From there we have this. So that starts from the 16 on the D string to 14 over to 17 on the A. And then pull off 16 to 14 a couple times. Over to 17 on the low E string. And then just kind of go back up the scale, 14, 16, 17 on the A to 14, 16 on the D, back to that 17 on the A. So let me play through what we got. All right, and then the ending here is this. It starts over. So we have this. That's 16, 14, 16 on the D. To 18 on the D. 14 on the G. And then we start we go back down to the 14 on the D string, which is gonna start that little ascending scale run. So we have this. So that's at 16, 14, 16, 18 on the D, 14 on the G, and then when we get to this 14 on the D string again, we start going up. 14, 16, 18, 14 on the D, then 14, 16 on the G, then 14, 15, 17 on the B string. You can do that pre-bend to kind of start the whole thing over. So let me play through the melody again kind of slowly. I know, especially when we get to the bottom, it's kind of hard to memorize all that section. So you might want to write it down, go rewind it and kind of write down the notes that I was going through until you get it underneath your fingers. So, but I'll play through it kind of slowly for you a couple times because that's what he does in the song. He plays through it a couple times here. So it is. End it with a bend or right there with it. So then we have the kind of the verse sections of the song, and this I was just going to show you what's going on here if you wanted to. We basically play these verse sections. It's the lower piano part, not with the note on top. So we just have this. So when the vocals are going on, this is kind of over that chord progression. So it's a lot easier to play without that top melody note, and you can just pick the whole thing. So I'll just pick across it. Open A, then 7 on the D, 6 on the G, 5 on the B. And then that same E, open E, 7th fret on the A, 6 on the D, 4 on the G. We've done some of these before, so I'm going to kind of go a little bit faster. So we have this. So this is over the vocal part, under the vocal part. So that F sharp minor bar chord really. Pick the low E string and then the the D string, G, B. And then that C sharp minor chord, you can play it like this now, a lot easier. Well, just 4th fret there on the A, 2nd on the D, 1st on the G. So you don't have to hide that melody note, so you can just play it a lot easier. Remember that, when you only have 3 strings to work off of, you gotta pick that bottom note twice. And then up to the D major. It's 5th fret on the A, 4th on the D, and 2nd on the G. Move down to the A major chord by just moving everything up 1 string. Back to the D. And then shift up to 2 frets to the E that ends it, and you can now add the low E in there. So picking the low E, then the A string, D, G, and then start over. All right, so that's what you can do underneath the vocal lines in there, and then obviously. Those power chords that we came in with in the intro, they start going. That kind of thing. It's the same kind of chord progression, it's just played with the power chords that we did earlier. All right, so now let's get to We continue doing that with the power chords until we get to the solo section and things ramp up quite a bit. So I'm going to play through the solo for you real quick, and then I'll show you how to play it note for note. All right, so that solo has got some pretty interesting little tapping section there that's pretty challenging. It just occurs all pretty much on the B string until the very, very end of it. Kind of a pedal tone tapping thing. And then at the end, we got some kind of crazy sweeps that go across the fretboard too. So got a cut out for us here. So we're going to start with this opening. Like now, this opening tapping sequence is kind of the same thing done 3 times, the same pattern done 3 times, but in different parts of the scale. So we're going to start with this. So that's kind of section 1. So now what is going on there? I'll turn the delays off if you guys, that irritates some people. So we're going to start with a slide into the 14th fret on the B string. And then we start the pedal tone tapping stuff, where we're basically going to tap this top note at the 17th fret on the B string. And what we're going to do is we're going to always tap this note and pull off to another note in the fret hand. So the melody is happening in the fret hand. So all we really need to do is focus on that melody, because then we're just going to tap down to each one of those. So let's look at the notes that are happening in the fret hand. So we're going to start with a slide into the 14th fret. That happens before any taps. So that's the first note you hear. And then we start the tapping. And what we're doing is we're tapping down to each one of these notes that I'm going to learn from here. So we have this. So we slide into this and then play 15, 14, 15, 14. So just kind of break this up here before we make it sound like the actual recording. Then you're going to play 10, 12, 14. Sorry. 10, 12, 14, 12. So I have. All right, now we're going to continue with the melody. So we're going to go down to 9, 10, 12, shift up to 14, and then go back down the scale, 12, 10, 9, 7. So the notes in the fret hand. So that's the part that's the first section. That's the part you want to memorize. And then we just are going to put in between each one of those notes, we're going to tap the 17th fret and pull off to the next note. So we have that slide. So you get kind of hammer on from nowhere and slide into the 14th fret there on the beat. Then we're going to tap 17, and then we start that melody. 15, 14, 15, 14, 10, 12, 14, 12, 9, 10, 12, 14, 12, 10, 9, 7. So basically you just gotta get that. You can work on the timing of that tapping, and when you're shifting positions, you gotta, kind of really have good timing with the tapping finger. All right, so get the timing of the tapping first, and then just memorize the notes in the left hand, and then just put the two together. That's kind of the easiest way to do it. So now we have section 2, which is the exact same pattern, just kind of taken lower in the scale. So this pattern starts here. So we have this. So that just now starts. Sorry. So what I mean by the same pattern, it's basically the same pattern, but we're just down the scale a little further. So I'm tapping, instead of tapping 17 to 15 to 14 to 15 to 14, we're going to do the taps, all the taps in this section at the 14th fret on the beat. And the notes in the fret hand will be 12, 10, 12, 10. So it goes. So those notes are going to be 12, 10, 12, 10, then down to the 7, 9, 10, 9. So that's just like the up here, but just down. So it's basically everything really kind of down a third is all it is. And then we have which is now 5, 7, 9, shift up to 10, back and go back down. 9, 7, 5, 4. So altogether for the section 2, when we're tapping at the 14th fret, the notes in the left hand once again are 12, 10, 12, 10, 7, 9, 10, 9, and then 5, 7, 9, 10, 9, 7, 5, 3. So kind of the same continuation of what we did here. All right, now we're going to do the same pattern once again, a little bit lower in the scale. Now the taps are going to be happening at the 10th fret. So we go down another third. So we went from tapping the A to the C sharp, the E to the C sharp to the A. So just we're tapping the notes of an A major arpeggio. So we're here. And now, so we're going to be tapping this note, and the notes in the left hand, once again, kind of contain that same pattern. So that's 9, 7, 9, 7. Then 3, 5, 7, 5. So, and then we go 2, 3, 5, shift up to 7, back down, 5, 3, 2, and that's kind of the end of the third pattern, but it starts kind of repeating the third pattern again and then kind of breaks halfway through. So we have this. And then we kind of start the pattern over. So, I'm sorry, after this, you go back to the, back to the third fret there to end it. So we have this. You play that third fret. It's kind of like a little transition note, and then go back up to start it over again. So now right there, when you get to right there, so you're basically starting over the way you did the third pattern. You start it again, but at that point, so you don't play much of it though. So we now do this. Little ending there. So this is, there's a couple ways that you can tap this. You can tap it obviously with your middle finger, which I was playing it with my middle finger a little bit, but then it starts getting irritated, so I just switched to the index finger. It doesn't really matter, but we have. Now, ideally, if you don't have to, if you put the pick in your mouth or whatever, you can actually use 2 fingers here, especially for that string crossing. I'll explain that in a second. But after we get through all this tapping section that we just did, where that continuous pedal tapping, we have this little ending tapping lick where we're going to, it's a 4-note lick. So you're going to tap the 9th fret on the B, pull off to the open string, open B, then hammer on 5. That's a bunch of E major arpeggios that we're going to be doing here. So when you tap 9, pull off to the open, hammer 5, tap back onto the 9, slide up to the 12th fret, that B. Then what you're going to do, pull off. Now that's basically, when you do that, that's the start, that's the note that's the start of the next group of 4, which is that you slid to it, but you once again pull off to the open, hammer on this time 9, and then hammer back to 12. So we have this. Now here, we can't keep going. He doesn't do that. He goes over to the high E string. So obviously you can't slide into that note, so he just. Now that's where it's kind of weird using the same finger. Sometimes it'd be easier to go. And just switch fingers that you're tapping with. So you can do that, but obviously you gotta have a place where you're, something you're doing with your pick. I'm just using the index finger for the whole thing. So I just kind of do a quick little jump over there. And that's also why on the recording there, you don't hear a slide into that note because he's just jumping over to it. And now we have the open high E string that we're pulling off to. So we play this. The 4-note pattern here is going to be tapping 12, pull off to the open, hammer on 7, hammer back, tap back onto that 12, slide up to 16. So that 16 is the verse of the next group of 4. And here, you can just pull off to the open string and get ready to play, get rid of the tapping by just going hammering 12 and then hammering 16 with your fret hand. Because you go into it like actually playing that note and picking it and bending it. So it's better just kind of go ahead and grab your pick. So we have this. So the whole tapping section. All right, so as soon as you get to that 16th fret up there, we have this kind of quick little easy melody like this. So that's just kind of a half step bend and at the 16th fret on the high E string. Hold that and then release. Down to 14. And then over to 17 on the B. And then play 15, 14, 15 on the B. And then into another bend to the 17th fret. So we have this. All right, now that takes us to this quick little sweep section before we go back into that main melody that we played earlier in the song. And the sweeps look like this. All right, so it kind of goes into the melody after that. So the sweeps here, we're going to start with, it's mostly a bunch of D major arpeggios here. So we're going to start with playing 7 on the B, into 5 on the high E string. And you're going to slide, so play 5 on the high E, hammer 10, slide up to 14, and pull off to 10. So we have this. So there I'm getting ready. You see I got a bar across the B and the high E string. So now we're gonna just skip over to the G string. And we're gonna do a sweep across this B major arpeggio here. I'm sorry, D major. So we have, so that's 11 on the G, into 10 on the B, 10 on the high E. So I'm doing a sweep across these two, down, down, hammer, slide, pull, and then I'm gonna go down, down, down. And then hammer there on the 14th fret. And slide up to the next inversion of a D major triad, which is here at the 17th fret. So you're gonna play 17, pull off to 14, over to 15 on the B, and 14 on the G. A good way to do that, you can just go up, pull off, up, down, because that down gets you going towards the high E string again, or you can do them all 3 downstrokes. And then back down to the D major shape we were at before, but obviously playing it descending. So that's pulling off 14 to 10, and then 10 on the B, 11 on the G. Now here, we change it to E major arpeggios. So instead of here, we're gonna move up now, the same shape, but move it up to the 13th fret on the G and 12 on the B and the high E. So we're gonna do sweep across, 13 on the G, 12 on the B and the high E, and then 16 on the high E, pull off to 12, over to 15 on the B. And I like to pick that, so down, 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 up, pull off, down. Now that sweep just makes it down to that B string, and then you slide up to the 19th fret there on the high E. It's the next E major shape up. Pull off 19 to 16, 17 on the B, and then 16 on the G. So that's all descending, so I'm just going to upstrokes there. Up, pull, up, up, and then reverse that. You're going to double this note on the G string, so you're going to pick that again, but now it's a downstroke to sweep back down across. And end it back with that 19th fret, up top. So from these E's are. And now from there, we get back to the same exact melody that we did earlier. So it just kind of repeats. It's just at the very end of the second time through, that little last run, it just goes. It's the same thing, but it's just, there's a slow retard as we go up there. All right, and underneath that, obviously there's the A chord there that ends at 2 was played with that. All right, so that is it for the Christmas Canon Rock. It's got some cool guitar stuff in it, really cool tapping, some challenging stuff, and some really melodic playing in there. So I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I hope you guys have a good holiday season as well. I'll see you guys again soon for GuitarLessons365.com.